15 years after they split, Oasis announced a new tour for 2025. Here are some reasons why the reunion is great. A reminder of better times. The 90s. The fashion, the music, the celebrities, the TV shows, movies. There was so much going on in that hedonistic decade, and musically, there was no exception. In the mid-90s, a political changing of the guard was just around the corner in the UK, and the economy was heading towards a brighter outlook. The pre-digital, pre-social media age was, in large parts, a great time. The cultural force that was called Britannia, when the UK once again had the eyes of the world upon it, was having a positive impact globally, and Oasis led the charge. The news that the Gallaghers have called a truce to play to their fans once more makes us harken back to the good old days. Whilst some might roll their eyes, if you were there and you know, then you know. It's been 30 years since Oasis' debut album Definitely Maybe stormed the charts, and the follow-up, What's the Story Morning Glory, has a place in the hearts of millions of people in the UK and around the world. You can dispute their musical prowess, but you cannot dispute, rightly or wrongly, Oasis were, for a few years in the 90s, head and shoulders above the rest, and having them back to play live after 15 years just makes us who are old enough remember those heady days. Nostalgia is a potent force, and we will see all things 90s firmly in the public consciousness once more, and some might say that is no bad thing. Anything is possible. Don Henley once commented that the Eagles would get back together when hell freezes over. Well, hell didn't freeze, but they did reunite. Noel and Liam's strained and ultimately fractured relationship made it seemingly impossible for a thawing of tensions, and the chance of them setting foot on stage with one another beyond a long shot. Even as recently as this year, there have been the odd testy exchange in the media, and Liam's lack of filter on X specifically made a reconciliation look even more impossible, but somehow it's finally happened. All these years, the fans have clamoured for the band to put aside their differences, and 2024 has seen the improbable made happen. Many didn't believe it would, even when the rumours started really gathering pace, as there had been similar rumours previously. After Noel's divorce and details of the huge £20 million settlement emerged, it seemed logical that a tour, even a short one, would recoup this. But as ever, the brothers were the stumbling block. Noel's stance has softened over the past few years, from "I couldn't spend another day in a band with Liam" to talking about how much it would take to get him back on stage with Oasis. It seems the time is right, and the appetite, carefully teased and orchestrated by both Gallaghers, is high. Tickets going for hundreds, some for thousands, and millions trying to get hold of them. One of the biggest bust-ups in a rock group could be put to bed, at least temporarily, to give the fans that have been hoping and dreaming what they wanted and deserve. Celebrate one of the best British bands in modern times. Many fine British guitar bands had a musical or cultural impact, or both. This was a rich heritage, but one that was waning come the early 90s, so the stage was set for something to come along to add to the list and keep the flame alive. As the sun set on the seismic shockwave of early 90s grunge, Britain was yearning for something British again. New bands like Blur, Pulp, Manic Street Preachers, and Suede were heading the charge of what was loosely held by the connection of guitar-based music to become labelled by the media as Britpop. At the top of this, Oasis. One can argue that they were carried partly by this wave, but they were distinctly their own, born of working class frustrations and dreams of making it as rock and roll superstars. Definitely Maybe is as good a debut as you can get, and What's the Story Morning Glory catapulted them into the stratosphere. Be Here Now is patchy, with some good songs, but Oasis' cultural relevance was huge. From 1994 to 1998, they were some of the best of British, and are up there in that list of great British bands. Where exactly has been a matter of debate by music historians and fans alike. It is difficult to get across to people who didn't grow up in the 90s how significant they were at that time. How good were Oasis? Before the drugs and egos got out of control? Good enough to be in the conversation, and that's what matters. To really understand the anticipation and excitement caused by Oasis, which is beyond almost anything nowadays, you'd have to invent a time machine and go back to 1995, 96 or 97, and Be Here Now. The fans get what they want. Now, I know the reasons are not completely altruistic. As mentioned, Noel's divorce settlement has much to do with this reunion, but it also has to do with Liam's tenacity to play Oasis songs to Oasis fans. He allegedly tried unsuccessfully to get Noel to play the One Love benefit concert with him after the Manchester Arena bombing in 2017, and he's always kept the flame of Oasis flickering. Liam has stated that he prefers being in Oasis than being a solo artist and has campaigned for the band to get back together for years now, but he's always wanted to do it for the fans who put them in the position that they are in as well. Much can be made of the push-pull relationship between the brothers and also between themselves and their audience, but if ever the time was right, it is now. Noel is 57, Liam 51, soon to be 52. And time waits for no one. Neither will ever get any better, and yes, they are no longer at the peak of their powers. But, if not now, then when? It was the right time, and things fell into place for it to go ahead. The fans felt a bit shortchanged by the abruptness of the split in 2009, and time could have healed things somewhat. So at least now, they can revel in the glory one more time. Parents can take their kids, new generations can connect with Oasis, old fans get the live experience once more, everyone can share in the celebration of music that is an Oasis gig. A fitting end for a band of their stature. I mentioned great British bands earlier. Some broke up and reformed, some never reformed after a terrible split, and a few never had the chance to, which left people imagining what if. Oasis were one of the best bands of the 90s. Their imprint on British culture is deep, and their music will live forever. It doesn't really matter what the reasons for the tour are, as they are complex and part of a bigger picture. But Oasis have an opportunity here and also a choice. It's entirely possible that Noel Gallagher has written an album of Oasis-type anthems that he wasn't prepared to do with his High-Flying Birds, for fear of comparison with his previous band. He has kept songs hidden before, after writing them only to pull them out of his bag of tricks years later. How likely we hear fresh music from Oasis is uncertain, but entirely possible, depending on how things go. New music or not, it would be great for them to give the tour their all, put on great shows which leave the fans happy, and to go out on a high if that were to be it. When they hit the road, it will be 30 years since Morning Glory came out, and it will be a fantastic bookend to the Oasis story, satisfying many, hopefully including themselves. If they can complete the tour, maybe even do some shows stateside and in Europe and other places, making all the fans happy, even if then they called it a day completely, it would be a fitting end for a band of their stature, to go out the way that they might ultimately have wanted to originally. Whatever happens, as ever, the next year or so is going to be very interesting. So there you have it. If you haven't seen my reasons for ignoring the Oasis reunion, playing a bit of devil's advocate, check out the video here.